You know, I've been studying success and failure for over 40 years now, and I've got to tell you something that might make you a little uncomfortable. The difference between where you are right now and where you want to be isn't talent, it's not luck, it's not even opportunity. The difference is discipline. That's it, just discipline. And here's the thing that most people don't want to hear. You already know this. Deep down, you know exactly what you need to do. The real question is, will you do it? Let me tell you about two men I knew when I was starting out. Both were 25 years old. Both had the same job, same income, same opportunities. One of them decided to read 30 minutes every day. The other one decided to watch television. One of them decided to save 10% of his income. The other one spent everything he made and then borrowed a little more. One of them decided to arrive 15 minutes early to work. The other one showed up right on time, sometimes a few minutes late. Now, here's what's fascinating. After 1 week, there was no difference between these two men. After 1 month, you still couldn't tell them apart. After 1 year, maybe just a slight edge. But after 5 years, completely different people. After 10 years, they were living in different worlds. One owned his own business, had money in the bank, traveled with his family, and had the respect of everyone around him. The other one was still complaining about his job, still broke at the end of every month, still wondering why life was so hard. What made the difference? Discipline. Small daily disciplines repeated with consistency over time. That's the whole secret. But here's the other side of that coin, and this is what breaks my heart every time I see it. Small daily errors of judgment, repeated consistently over time, create a life of regret and disappointment. You see, it's not the one piece of chocolate cake that destroys your health. It's eating it every single day for 20 years. It's not missing one workout that ruins your fitness. It's skipping the gym consistently for years. It's not one cigarette that kills you. It's the pack a day for 30 years. The problem is that these small errors in judgment don't seem to matter. That's the trap. On any given day, it doesn't seem to make any difference whether you read or watch television. It doesn't seem to matter whether you eat the salad or the cheeseburger. The scale doesn't change overnight. Your bank account doesn't collapse because you spent an extra $50. But here's what I've learned. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, while the pain of regret weighs tons. You've got to choose which one you're willing to carry. Let me explain what I mean by discipline, because most people have it all wrong. They think discipline is punishment. They think it's about deprivation and suffering and white-knuckling your way through life. That's not discipline, that's just being miserable. Real discipline is simply choosing between what you want now and what you want most. It's deciding that the person you want to become is more important than the comfort you feel right now. It's understanding that every choice you make is either moving you closer to your goals or further away from them. There's no neutral ground. You're either going up or going down. Here's a simple way to think about it. Every day you can either take an apple or you can neglect to take an apple. Now, taking the apple is easy to do. It's simple. It doesn't require much effort, but it's also easy not to do. Nobody's forcing you to eat healthy. You can skip it, and nothing bad happens today. That's the problem right there. See, everything that's easy to do is also easy not to do. Reading 10 pages is easy. Not reading 10 pages is also easy. Going for a walk is easy. Not going for a walk is easy. Saving $100 is easy. Spending $100 is easy. The choice between the two? That's where discipline lies. And let me tell you something about neglect. It starts as nothing, just a little thing. You skip one day. You make one exception. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. And tomorrow comes and you make the same choice. Before you know it, months have passed, then years. And one day you wake up and you can't believe how far off course you've drifted. You wonder how you got here. But the truth is, you know exactly how you got here. One undisciplined choice at a time. One day at a time. One decision at a time. I remember when I was 25 years old, broke and struggling. My mentor asked me a simple question. He said, "Jim, how much money have you saved in the last 6 years?" I said, "Nothing. I spent it all." He said, "Who sold you on that plan?" That hit me right between the eyes. Nobody had to convince me to be broke. I had convinced myself. I had sold myself on the idea that I couldn't afford to save. I had sold myself on the idea that I deserved to spend everything I made. I had sold myself on the idea that I'd start saving later when I made more money. All lies, all excuses, all lack of discipline. So he taught me something that changed my life forever. He said, Jim, if you want to be wealthy, you've got to learn to live on less than you earn and invest the difference. Simple, right? Of course it's simple. A child could understand it, but simple doesn't mean easy. See, knowing and doing are two different things. I knew I should save money, but I wasn't doing it. And that gap between knowing and doing, that's where discipline lives. That's where your future is. Created or destroyed. Here's what most people don't understand about discipline. It's not really about the action itself. It's about what the action does to you. When you discipline yourself to get up early, you're not just gaining an extra hour. You're building self-respect. You're proving to yourself that you can keep promises to yourself. When you discipline yourself to save money, you're not just building wealth. You're building character. You're teaching yourself that you're in control, not your circumstances. When you discipline yourself to exercise, you're not just building muscle. You're building mental toughness. You're creating evidence that you can do hard things. Every time you do what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it, you're casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're depositing into your self-esteem account. And here's the beautiful part. Eventually, you start to see yourself differently. You start to think, I'm the kind of person who keeps commitments. I'm the kind of person who does what needs to be done. I'm the kind of person who doesn't quit when things get hard. And once you start seeing yourself that way, everything changes. But it starts with one choice. Right now, not tomorrow, not Monday, not after the holidays, right now. You see, most people are waiting for the perfect moment to start being disciplined. They're waiting until they feel motivated. They're waiting until circumstances are just right. They're waiting until they have more time, more money, more energy. But here's the truth. The perfect moment never comes. Discipline doesn't wait for motivation. Discipline is what you do when you don't feel like doing it. That's the whole point. Let me tell you what happens when you start choosing discipline over comfort. At first it's hard, really hard. Your old habits fight back. Your brain tells you that you can skip just this once. Your feelings scream at you to stop. But if you push through, something remarkable happens. After a few days, it gets a little easier. After a few weeks, it becomes routine. After a few months, it becomes who you are. The discipline that felt like a burden becomes the foundation of your freedom. The restrictions you put on yourself create more options in your life, not fewer. Think about it this. The way the disciplined person who saves money has the freedom to quit a job they hate. The undisciplined person who spends everything is trapped. The disciplined person who takes care of their health has the freedom to play with their grandchildren. The undisciplined person who neglected their body is trapped in limitations. The disciplined person who reads and learns has the freedom to create opportunities. The undisciplined person who neglected their mind is trapped in ignorance. Discipline doesn't take away freedom. Discipline is what creates it. Now let me tell you something about life that took me years to understand. Life is nothing more than a collection of moments. That's all it is. And in each moment you have a choice. You can do the thing that serves your future, or you can do the thing that satisfies your present. Most people choose the present every single time, and then they wonder why their future looks just like their past. But the disciplined person, they understand that the choices they make today are creating the life they'll live tomorrow. I'll never forget the turning point in my own life. I was 25 years old, and I had just discovered that I was going to run out of money before I ran out of money again. I was sitting there with my bills spread out on the kitchen table, and I had to decide which ones to pay and which ones to let slide. I felt like such a failure. Here I was living in America, the land of opportunity, and I couldn't even pay my own bills. But then something clicked. I realized that this moment right here, this was my moment of truth. I could make excuses, or I could make changes. I could blame the economy, or I could change my philosophy. I could wait for things to get better, or I could get better. So I made a decision right then and there. I decided that I would never again be in this position. I decided that I would become a student of success. I would read every book I could find. I would listen to every successful person who would talk to me. I would do whatever it took to change my life. And you know what? That one decision made in one moment of discipline changed everything. Not immediately, not overnight, but consistently over time. That decision kept paying dividends. Here's what I learned from that experience. Success is not a big event that happens to you. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And failure is just a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The difference between success and failure is so small it's almost invisible. That's what I call the slight edge. You've got two people, and one of them reads 10 pages of a good book every day. The other one watches an extra hour of television. After a day, what's the difference? Nothing. After a week, still nothing you can see. After a month, maybe the reading person knows a little more, but it's not life-changing yet. But after a year, that person has read 3,650 pages, that's about 10 to 15 books. After 5 years, that's 50 to 75 books. That person has completely transformed their thinking, their philosophy, their understanding of how life works. And the other person? They've watched 1,825 hours of television and haven't changed at all. The slight edge works both ways. It can work for you or against you. And here's the thing, you're using it right now, whether you know it or not. Every choice you make is either compounding in your favor or compounding against you. There's no standing still. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're either building or you're destroying. And it all comes down to those small, seemingly insignificant choices you make every single day. Let me ask you something. When you wake up in the morning, what do? Do you hit the snooze button or do you get up? Do you grab your phone and scroll through social media, or do you grab a book and read? Do you complain about having to go to work, or do you feel grateful that you have work to go to? These small choices, they seem like they don't matter, but I'm telling you, they matter more than anything else. Because here's the secret. How you do anything is how you do everything. The way you start your morning determines how you live your life. Now, I want to talk to you about feelings, because this is where most people go wrong. They let their feelings run their lives. They wake up and they don't feel like exercising, so they don't exercise. They don't feel like working, so they do the minimum. They don't feel like being nice to their spouse, so they're short and irritable. They're letting their feelings make their decisions. And let me tell you something, your feelings are the worst advisor you could possibly have. Your feelings will tell you to eat the cake. Your feelings will tell you to skip the workout. Your feelings will tell you to spend the money. Your feelings will tell you to quit when things get hard. Successful people don't ask themselves how they feel. They ask themselves what needs to be done. They understand that feelings follow action, not the other way around. You don't wait until you feel like exercising to exercise. You exercise, and then you feel good about it. You don't wait until you feel like working to work. You work, and then you feel productive. You don't wait until you feel confident to take action. You take action, and then confidence comes. That's the discipline of not letting your feelings run the show. Here's a practical example. Let's say you decide to read 10 pages of a good book every day. That's nothing, right? 10 pages. Maybe takes you 15 minutes. Easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. So you wake up and you think, I'll read my 10 pages tonight before bed. But tonight comes and you're tired. You've had a long day. You just want to relax. So you tell yourself, I'll read tomorrow. I'll read 20 pages tomorrow to make up for it. But tomorrow comes and the same thing happens. And before you know it, a week has gone by and you haven't read anything. What happened? You let your feelings make the decision instead of your discipline. Now let me show you what discipline looks like. You wake up, and before you do anything else, before you check your phone, before you have breakfast, before you do anything, you read your 10 pages. You don't negotiate with yourself. You don't check your feelings. You don't debate whether you want to or not. You just do it every single day. No exceptions. And here's what happens. After 30 days, you've read 300 pages. That's a whole book. After a year, that's 12 books. And those 12 books, they've changed how you think. They've given you new ideas. They've shown you new possibilities. They've made you a different person, all because of 15 minutes a day of discipline. The same principle works with money. Let's say you earn $3,000 a month. Most people spend $3,000 a month or more if they can borrow it. But what if you disciplined yourself to live on 90%? That's just $300 a month, easy to do, but also easy not to do. After 1 month, you've got $300 saved. That's nice, but it's not life-changing. After 1 year, you've got $3,600. That's starting to be real money. After 5 years, you've got $18,000 plus whatever interest it earned. After 10 years, you've got over $40,000. And that's just from being disciplined enough to save 10%. That's the power of small disciplines repeated over time. But here's what most people do. They tell themselves, someday I'll start saving, someday when I make more money, someday when I get that raise, someday when things are easier. But someday never comes. Someday is not a day of the week. Someday is just another word for never. The only day you have is today. The only moment you have is now. And the discipline you need tomorrow starts with the discipline you practice today. Let me tell you about a conversation I had with a friend who was always broke. He said to me, Jim, I can't afford to save money. I barely make enough to pay my bills. So I asked him, if your income was cut by 10%, would you die? He said, no, I'd figure it out somehow. I said, then you can afford to save 10%. You just have to figure it out, just like you would if you had no choice. You see, the issue wasn't his income. The issue was his discipline. He had convinced himself that he couldn't save when the truth was he wouldn't save. There's a big difference between can't and won't. The beautiful thing about discipline is that it creates momentum. When you start keeping one promise to yourself, it becomes easier to keep the next one. When you start seeing results from your disciplines, you want to do more. When you start feeling that self-respect growing, you don't want to let yourself down. It's like pushing a car that's stuck. At first, it takes everything you've got just to get it moving. But once it starts rolling, it gets easier and easier. That's what happens with discipline. The hardest part is starting. The hardest part is breaking through your old patterns and creating new ones. But once you get that momentum going, once discipline becomes your default setting, life starts to get easier, not harder. Now, here's something fascinating that I want you to understand. When you develop discipline in one area of your life, it spills over into every other area. It's like working out one muscle group and finding out that your whole body gets stronger. When you discipline yourself financially, you'll notice that your relationships improve. When you discipline yourself physically, you'll notice that your work gets better. When you discipline yourself mentally, everything else starts to fall into place. Why? Because discipline is not about the specific action. It's about building the person you're becoming. And that person shows up everywhere. Let's talk about money for a minute, because this is where most people struggle. Financial discipline is really simple, but people make it complicated because they don't want to do what's required. Here's the formula: earn more than you spend and invest the difference. That's it. But most people do the opposite. They spend more than they earn and finance the difference. They see something they want and they buy it whether they can afford it or not. They use credit cards like they're free money. They make the minimum payment and think they're handling their finances. But let me tell you something. The borrower is servant to the lender. When you owe money, you're not free. You're working for the bank, not for yourself. Financial discipline means you pay yourself first. Before you pay any bill, before you spend a single dollar on anything else, you pay yourself. You take that 10%, that 15%, that 20%, whatever you can, and you put it away. You invest it. You make it grow. And here's what happens at first. You don't even miss it. You adjust. You figure it out. You live on what's left. And then one day, maybe 5 years later, maybe 10 years later, you look at that account and you realize something incredible. You're wealthy. Not because you made a fortune, but because you had the discipline to save consistently over time. Let me tell you about time discipline. Because time is the one thing you can never get back. Money you can make more of. Opportunities can come around again. But time, once it's gone forever. And yet most people treat time like it's unlimited. They waste hours every day on things that don't matter. They spend more time planning their vacation than they spend planning their life. They'll watch 3 hours of television but say they don't have time to read. They'll scroll through their phone for an hour but say they're too busy to exercise. That's not being too busy. That's being undisciplined with your time. Here's what I learned from my mentor. He said, Jim, treat your time like you treat your money. Budget it, account for it, invest it wisely. So I started tracking my time. I wrote down what I did every hour for a week. And you know what I found? I was wasting about 3 hours a day. 3 hours. That's 21 hours a week. That's over 1,000 hours a year. I was giving away 1,000 hours of my life to nothing, to activities that weren't moving me forward, weren't making me better, weren't adding any value to my life or anyone else's. That was a wake-up call. Time discipline means you guard your hours like they're precious, because they are. It means you say no to things that don't serve your goals. It means you turn off the television and pick up a book. It means you get up an hour earlier to work on your dreams. It means you use your lunch break to learn something new instead of scrolling through social media. Every hour you have is an hour you can invest in becoming better, or an hour you can waste. The choice is yours, but you need to understand you're making that choice whether you realize it or not. Now let's talk about relationships, because this is where discipline gets really interesting. They think if you have to work at it, something must be wrong. But that's nonsense. Every meaningful relationship requires discipline. It requires the discipline to listen when you'd rather talk. The discipline to be patient when you'd rather be right. The discipline to show up when you'd rather stay home. The discipline to encourage when you'd rather criticize. Think about your marriage, if you're married, or your relationship with your children, or your friendships. How much time do you invest in those relationships? How much energy do you put into making them better, or do you just assume they'll take care of themselves? Let me tell you something, relationships don't take care of themselves. They require constant attention, constant effort, constant discipline. You've got to discipline yourself to put down your phone when your spouse is talking to you. You've got to discipline yourself to spend quality time with your kids instead of just being in the same house with them. You've got to discipline yourself to call that friend, to write that note, to show up when it matters. The same thing applies to your health. Your body is the vehicle that carries you through life. If you don't take care of it, where are you going to live? But most people treat their bodies worse than they treat their cars. They put garbage in their bodies and expect them to run perfectly. They never exercise and wonder why they're tired all the time. They stay up too late, sleep too little, and complain about having no energy. That's not bad luck. That's lack of discipline. Health discipline means you treat your body like it belongs to someone you love. You feed it good food. You give it rest. You move it every day. You don't abuse it with excess. You don't neglect it with laziness. You take care of it because you understand that your health is your wealth. Without your health, nothing else matters. All the money in the world won't help you if you can't get out of bed to enjoy it. And then there's mental discipline, guarding what goes into your mind. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant there will grow. If you plant good seeds, you'll get good results. If you plant weeds, you'll get weeds. But most people let anything and everything into their minds. They watch the news for 2 hours and wonder why they're depressed. They hang around negative people and wonder why they can't stay positive. They read trashy magazines and wonder why they don't have better thoughts. You've got to be selective about what you allow into your mind. Mental discipline means you're feeding your mind like you feed your body. You read good books. You listen to good programs. You have meaningful conversations. You learn new things. You challenge yourself intellectually. You don't just accept whatever thoughts pop into your head. You examine them. You question them. You replace the negative ones with positive ones. You discipline your thinking because you understand that you become what you think about most of the time. Here's the truth. Discipline in any area makes you better in every area. When you learn to control your spending, you learn self-control. When you learn to manage your time, you learn to manage your life. When you learn to take care of your body, you learn to respect yourself. When you learn to guard your mind, you learn wisdom. It all works together. You can't be disciplined in one area and completely undisciplined in another without it affecting everything. You're either becoming more disciplined or less disciplined. You're either building character or tearing it down. There's no middle ground. So the question becomes, how do you make discipline a lifestyle instead of just something you try for a few days and then quit? Because that's what happens to most people. They get all excited, they make big commitments, and then 3 days later, they're right back where they started. The reason is simple. They tried to change everything at once. They wanted instant transformation. But that's not how discipline works. Discipline is built one day at a time, one decision at a time, one small victory at a time. Here's what I suggest. Start with one thing. Just one. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. Pick one area where you know you need more discipline and start there. Maybe it's getting up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's reading 10 pages a day. Maybe it's saving $50 a week. Maybe it's going for a walk every evening. Whatever it is, make it small enough that you know you can do it, but significant enough that it matters. And then do it every single day without exception, no matter what, no matter how you feel, no matter what else is going on. You do that one thing. And here's what happens when you keep that one commitment to yourself every day. You build momentum. You prove to yourself that you can be disciplined. You create evidence that you're the kind of person who does what they say they'll do. And once you've got that one discipline solid, once it's become automatic, then you add another one. And then another one. Before you know it, you've transformed your entire life, not through massive overnight change, but through small, consistent disciplines practiced over time. Let me tell you about the power of the morning. If you win the morning, you win the day. What you do in the first hour after you wake up sets the tone for everything that follows. So here's my challenge to you. Discipline yourself to do the hardest thing first. Whatever that thing is that you've been avoiding, that thing you know you need to do but keep putting off, do that thing first. Before you check your email, before you scroll through your phone, before you do anything else, do the hard thing first. When you do that, everything else becomes easier. You've already won. The rest of the day is just bonus. Now let me talk to you about setbacks, because they're going to happen. You're going to have days where you mess up, days where you don't follow through, days where discipline goes right out the window. And here's what you need to understand. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. The question is not whether you'll have setbacks. The question is what you'll do after the setback. Will you use it as an excuse to quit, or will you use it as a lesson to get better? Discipline is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about getting back up one more time than you fall down. When you miss a day, don't beat yourself up about it. Just make sure you don't miss 2 days in a row. Get right back on track. The people who succeed aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who never quit. They're the ones who have the discipline to start over as many times as it takes. Here's something else that helps track your progress. Write it down. Keep a journal. Mark off the days on a calendar. There's something powerful about seeing your streak of consistency growing. It motivates you to keep going. It makes you not want to break the chain. And when you look back after 6 months, after a year, and you see all those days where you showed up and did what you said you would do, that's incredibly powerful. That's tangible proof that you're changing, that you're growing, that you're becoming someone different. And let me tell you about the people you spend time with, because this matters more than you think. You become like the people you associate with. If you hang around disciplined people, their discipline will rub off on you. If you hang around undisciplined people, their lack of discipline will drag you down. It's just the way it works. So you've got to be careful about who you let into your life. Find people who are going where you want to go. Find people who are doing what you want to do. Find people who challenge you to be better. And spend time with them. Here's the beautiful thing about discipline that nobody tells you at the beginning. After a while, it doesn't feel like discipline anymore. It just feels like who you are. The thing that used to be hard becomes automatic. The thing you used to have to force yourself to do becomes something you want to do. Discipline becomes your default setting. And when that happens, life gets so much easier. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're not battling your habits. You're just living in alignment with who you want to be. Let me leave you with this thought. Your life today is the sum of all your decisions up to this point. Every choice you've made, every discipline you've practiced or neglected has led you to where you are right now. And here's the good news. Your life tomorrow will be the sum of the decisions you make starting today. You can't change the past, but you absolutely can change the future. And it starts with one disciplined choice. Right now, this moment. What will you discipline yourself to do today that your future self will thank you for? What small action will you take today that, repeated over time, will completely transform your life? Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you feel motivated. Don't wait until circumstances are ideal. Start now. Start today. Start with one small discipline and watch what happens. Watch how it builds. Watch how it grows. Watch how it changes everything. Because that's the power of discipline. Not in one massive effort, but in small, consistent actions repeated day after day after day. That's how you build a life worth living. That's how you become the person you were meant to be.